Well, Coach, why don't you kind of tell us the plan between now and game day on December 9th as far as schedule, practice? I know you got the media event up there in Gillette Stadium Wednesday. Kind of just tell me the general plan.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty banged up, so we're going to meet with our guys today. Put the film to rest and start to get to work on Army. We'll lift and meet. Won't practice today, and we'll practice the rest of the week, obviously, including Saturday, Friday, more of a walkthrough type of schedule for us, and then next week be into our normal game mode week.
You're muted, Wags. You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Do you change the next week as far as Monday, which normally was more of a light day? Since you're going to have time off, do you kind of alter? Are you more a little heavy practice starting Monday?
No, I mean, the way we structure practice, the way we do is to take care of our guys' legs, and so we'll be really mindful about that. We'll make sure we're in good shape and ready to go on Saturday and fresh. And so Monday will be slightly different because we won't be introducing a game plan the next Monday. We'll be polishing it up. It'll be probably a little bit more of an extended Monday practice. But that's the day we're in helmets, spiders. We've already had a jump start on those guys, so it'll be a polish up from the previous week before we get into kind of our tough Tuesday routine.
So it won't be an issue moving forward with Army joining the league, but for the last at least 5 seasons, I believe they've had 3 weeks to prepare for you, whereas you've had 2. Does that concern you at all? Is that anything that you worry about?
I mean, nothing we can do about it, and I didn't know that was true. I know there's been some years when that's been the case. I think the COVID year we had a week to get ready, but yeah, you'd certainly like to have a week to just recover, which is, I'm sure they're getting into the weeds already, but it'd be nice to have a third week just to recover and get you guys healthy and all that kind of stuff. But I think 2 weeks is plenty enough for us to put our game plan together and feel good about being able to go out and execute it.
So obviously a lot of guys left the field on Saturday. Any updates on where some of those folks are, especially people like Xavier Arline, Jaden Umbarger, some of the frontline guys?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about all those guys. Maybe one exception there, but yeah, just pretty banged up, especially on the offensive side of football coming out of that game. Just a lot of it's just your typical bumps and bruises that you get this time of year, but feel pretty positive that Jim will get those guys back ready to go.
Considering what's coming up, do you just dispense with even reviewing that tape and discussing it with the players?
Yeah, I think you have to. And so I think you want to make sure that some of the mistakes that we made, some of the corrections that need to get made, and avoid those mistakes moving forward. Because there will be some things that we do against Army that we did against SMU, so we got to make those corrections, and certainly want to put it to bed quickly and move on. But yeah, we'll take a peek at those today, and we'll get started on Army.
Thanks, Coach.
Let's go to Joe Lonergan with Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Coach. How you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Joe?
Good. Appreciate it. Last time I talked to you, I believe, was in Dublin, and since that game, you guys have looked a lot more, comfortable in your own skin, comfortable in the new offense. What do you think is kind of the biggest change in your team since you returned from that Ireland trip?
I don't know. I think typical changes that occur during a season, every year takes on life of its own, and every team's a different personality, and I think we've grown as a football team, and as you typically do during a season, been through a lot together, and had some ups and some downs, and our kids, when we've had our downs, they've responded in the way we hope that they would. And, but it's a close group. They care a lot about each other, and they play for each other, and I think they've continued to gel and grow together throughout the season.
Over the course of your first season as the head coach of this program, what do you think you've learned most about yourself?
that I'm pretty resilient. I think I knew that about myself before that, but I think when you're the leader of the program, obviously you can't wear your emotions on your sleeve all the time, and you got to continue to lead through the tough times. And I don't know that I've learned a whole lot new about myself necessarily. It's been an adjustment being the head coach. It's different, but I've enjoyed the challenge of it. There's always things that you learn, especially as a first time head coach when you go through the process. I don't think, Joe, anything's really caught me by surprise or anything like that. We've got a great staff and we've got great young men in our program, and as mentioned, our players grow together, and our entire football team, including our coaches, kind of do the same thing during the course of the year.
Fair enough. As the venue for this game goes to Boston as opposed to the traditional Philadelphia, any thoughts on your guys getting to play in a different venue than what this game's usually played in, or as far as interrupting the tradition of it or anything like that?
No, excited about going up there. I've never been to Gillette Stadium, and the majority of our players haven't been up there either. So it's one thing that's kind of nice about this game is changing locations and getting to see different places and playing different parts of the country. And so I think we're all looking forward to it.
On the quarterback side for you guys, you mentioned our line being a little banged up. Who are you kind of planning on going with and using the most as you move into this game?
Yeah, well, I think Ty Lavata's should be back for this game. Should be available, and so you feel like you got three quarterbacks that can certainly go in the game and play for you. I expect our line to be back and ready to go, this week. And so obviously going to take a look at all three of those guys and as we always do, evaluate these 2 weeks and go with the guy that we feel like gives us the best chance to win. And that may be more than one.
In preparing for Army's offense, they've got the gun option look that they've tried to use quite a bit this year, kind of back and forth between that and the more traditional triple option look. Just how are you guys kind of preparing for that aspect of Army's offensive attack?
Yeah, when you play this game, you kind of have to prepare for everything, Joe, and you end up chasing a lot, as I'm sure that they do it as well. And you always see some new wrinkles and some new things. And so we just have to be prepared for everything. Obviously, they've been in the gun most of the year. Got under center in their last game against Coastal Carolina. They kind of had a necessity a little bit, but I would assume that we'll see both and we'll be prepared for both and a little bit more.
And again, on their offensive side, they've got Bryson Daly. They've got Champ Harris, who's younger, but two different playing styles between those guys. I guess, what are your thoughts on how they utilize both guys in those systems?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Bryson. I've been really impressed with both of them. Champ's more of a passer. Bryson more of a runner for those guys. And but they're both able to do both things within their system and do them well. I compare Champ a little bit to Braxton. I think they're very similar in their abilities and what they're able to do, and both have really bright futures. But really impressed with Bryson. I think he's a tough football player. I think he runs their offense really well, and I think he throws it well enough to beat you if you let him. There's no doubt about it.
Excellent. That's all I have. Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, Matt Hurst.
Coach, is there can you all discern any noticeable difference in South Florida, Temple, SMU, as opposed to many of the other games where your defense has been on point for the most part?
Yeah, I think obviously the South Florida game was early on in the year. I think it was the first time we've seen a team go that fast, and we struggled with that a little bit. Did some good things. I think the Temple game, we've talked about that one, kind of was what it was, and feel like we were quite ready to play, and didn't get our guys ready to play like we should have. Had a little bit of a hangover, I thought, from Air Force. And then the game this week, Pete, I think SMU is really, really good, and that was part of it. And I think when you play teams like that, you've got to be at your absolute best. The best players have to play their best, and we simply didn't do that. And I thought, our kids knew what was at stake and understood the opportunity that was in front of them, and I thought we pressed a little bit. And when you do that, and you got guys trying to do things outside of themselves, trying to do other guys' jobs, and takes away from their ability to do their job, the way they need to do it. And just didn't feel like we played well enough in all three phases to give ourselves a chance. I thought we were ready to play. I just, obviously got off to a really, really poor start, on both sides of the football, and really, out of the game, before halftime. And so discouraged about it, but obviously we can't have a hangover from that game, and can't let that game beat us twice, and it won't. Our kids will bounce back, and we've got to flush that one and move on, learn from it, and maybe a blessing in disguise. The lesson for our guys that you can't press in a game like that. It's a big, important game. You got to focus on doing your job as well as you can do it, and that'll be the message today, and that's what we're going to have to do going into this game this Army.
Is that the toughest part as a coach? The kids know what happened. You know what happened. At the same time, you want to, as a coach, get that message across. But at the same time, you want to trust that they understand, what happened, where you don't want to go too hard here because you don't want to discourage confidence going into, obviously, what is the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I think our guys know that they weren't at their best on Saturday, and we're a much better footballing team than what we put on the field, and so it's disappointing, it's discouraging, but at the same time, I still feel strongly about the potential of this football team, and who we are, and our kids should have some confidence about them, and some a little bit of some moxie going in this game. Certainly don't want to take that away from them, but at the same time, you got to address the issues that we had on Saturday and get those fixed, and take away the lessons you can learn from that game, so we're better next week.
You guys are very experienced with this 2-week gap, with the way this season has gone along. Has your plan and that of your coaches, has it really wavered much each time you've had this gap, or has it been pretty much the same thing each time?
I think it's a good question. I think it's wavered slightly based on the point in the season that we're at. Not only with our game plans mentally, but also just kind of physically, where's our football team at? Do we need to take this week as a recovery week, or do we need to go get after them a little bit and have some tough practices? And so, as far as the schedule and the approach, not a whole lot different. As far as the tempo of practice and the way that how physical our practices are, those have changed in the bye weeks based on kind of where I feel our football team is at and what we need to get done.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Jonathan Lairfield from Military Times.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I don't think I have anything too different from what's already been shared. And I know I jumped on a minute late, so I apologize. But ahead of Army Navy in a few weeks, anything you're looking forward to? Anything that's on your mind that you want to share?
I'm just really excited about playing the game. I mean, there's no game like this in college football, that I've ever been a part of. It's just it's such a great venue, the pageantry of it, what it means, what it represents. You got some of the best and the brightest from all over our country on full display, with a lot of people watching. It means a lot to a lot of people, and it's a big deal, and love the fact that we're showcasing these young men for what they do and what they're going to do, and I think the game represents the best that there is about college football, and so just to be a part of that is special. Like I said, I got here in 19, so this will be my 5th one, and there's nothing quite like it, and just excited about the opportunity to go compete and play the game.
All right, we'll make another trip around Wags.
So, Coach, can we delve a little bit more into the Army offense when they brought in a new coordinator and said he was abandoning the option, going to run a different? What exactly? And I've read articles, but I was curious your take. on what exactly they did for most of the season. And, I'm going to guess that changing up the offense was in due in part to the Service Academy games, because you all play the option so well. Maybe if Army does something a little bit different, it might help them move the ball. I think they ran the offense, or employed the offense that they used all season against Air Force. I think Coastal was the only time they reverted back to the old triple option. What's your thoughts on what the new offense brought in by the new offensive coordinator is all about?
Well, I think it's obviously a different way to run the triple. There's triple option elements, within their offense. I think they're similar to us. They're looking to evolve their offense, and they're trying to figure out the best way to do that with the personnel that they have and what those guys are able to do. So you've seen our offense trying to evolve. I think you've seen their offense evolving throughout the season as well. But you see a lot of similarities in what they're doing out of the gun to what they've done, under center with a lot of what they're doing. And there's certainly some different things and some wrinkles. They do a nice job. But, it all starts with the run game, and they want to establish that. I think that, they've been able to get the ball in the perimeter a little bit more, being in the gun. And I certainly think, what you saw them doing is Coastal. I don't know. I wasn't in those staff meetings. I'm not sure. I think I got a pretty good idea of why they kind of did that in that game, want to control the football and keep it away from Coastal's offense. But they have the ability to do both. And I think, Bryson functions really well under center, just as well as he does function in the gun. But I think they're doing some really good things. I think it's unique, it's different. And I think, again, like us, they're trying to figure out, exactly how they can do it in the most effective way with who they are and the players that they have. If that makes sense.
And obviously for you offensively, it's been a up and down season, to say the least, and you haven't really been able to click consistently. You can't wave a magic wand and have the offense suddenly hum on all cylinders in the Army Navy game, but you got to try your best. Can you talk about the importance of getting the offense, operating and executing in this game?
Yeah, well, this game is no different than any other game. What we want to be able to do offensively is move the chains and sustain drives and take advantage of what people are giving us. And the bottom line is we've got to be able to go out and execute at a really, really high level against these guys. And these games typically the points are hard to come by, and it typically comes down to the team that executes at the highest level and takes care of the football. And obviously, it's gonna be a big field position game, but we have to be able to put some drives together and move the sticks, sustain drives, and we're gonna have to score some points. There's no doubt about it. And we're gonna do everything we can. We're planning this thing out to get that done.
When you mentioned the field position battle and it's hard to move the ball against Army, and the same for them against you, how much of a weapon is Riley Reithman? Again, Saturday, averaging 55 yards a punt. It's been like that all season. He's a guy that can help you with the field position battle in this game in particular.
Yeah, there's no question. He's been really good all year. The whole unit has, not just him punting the ball, but the ability for us to cover has been really good. I think that's been an advantage that they've had in the past in their kicking game. It seems like these games they've gotten the better end of the field position piece of things, and but with Riley kicking the ball in the way we're protecting and punting the ball and covering him right now, I think it's certainly that's a huge advantage for us the way he's doing that. We've been able to flip the field a lot. With him kicking it. So he's done a great job, and he's going to have to do a great job, next Saturday.
When as part of special teams, obviously every point counts. And if you have to settle for field goals in this game, or if you have to kick a clutch field goal at the end, where do you feel Nathan Kirkwood has been? I haven't asked you about him all season, but since he took over as starting kicker, how do you feel Nathan's done?
I think he's done well. We haven't had a ton of opportunities to kick field goals, and we had one blocked a couple of weeks ago. Operation time was much better this week, and some concerns that we had to address. with the protection on our field goal team. Feel like we did that. And but no, I think he's solid. Hit a nice one a couple weeks ago as well. In a clutch situation. So it's been really good in practice. I think our operations gotten better. I think our protection's gotten better, and something we'll continue to certainly work on. These next 2 weeks. Because Army's, they're going to try to block a punt. They're going to try to block a field goal, and so we got to be niced up and what we're doing with our protections on both those units.
Last for me, you had mentioned about you've coached in the Army Navy game, four times now. This will be your fifth, but you have a lot of new coaches who have never experienced this. What is your message to them?
Yeah, just don't, these games are emotional, and you can't let that get to you. I think in 19, before that game, I was, there's certainly nerves, just like our players. And so you got to be able to relax. And, we tell our players it's a breathe, focus, explode game. It's no different for our coaches. You can't get overwhelmed by the moment. You got to be in the moment. And you really can't explain the magnitude of it until you've actually coached in that game. But you can certainly try to prepare those guys for it. And you just got to go be yourself and not get overwhelmed with the environment and what that game means.
Thank you.
Joe Lonergan.
Yeah. So I guess with Army, if they were to win this week, then they'd be in sole possession of the CIC. For you guys, as the quote unquote hated rival, what would it mean to spoil that?
I just want to win the game. It's really not about spoiling anything for me. It's just about us beating Army. It's the most important game of the year for us, and we're going to do everything we can to go win the game. Wish it was for the CIC on our part. If we could handle our business against Air Force, but it doesn't take away the meaning of this game for us by any means. Whether we were playing for the CIC or not, or sole possession of it. Doesn't make a difference. We want to win this game as bad as we want to win any game on our schedule, obviously. And so it's to be a spoiler, that's great. But we just want to win a football game.
Fair enough. Last question for me today. Just in the time that you have been with the U.S. Naval Academy, the world's changed. The U.S. military's changed. What kind of has been your perception, if there's been any changes at all in how the young men who come to play football at the U.S. Naval Academy just approach their position in life as service members?
It's a good question. I don't think it's been really a whole lot different since I've been here. This is been some interesting times, and I think that may be on our kids' minds a little bit more than maybe some of them in the past. But we got great young men in our program, and just can't say enough good things about them. But their approach and their mindset, to me, since I got here in 19, has been really consistent in that regard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Pete.
Brian, a win allows the season to end with euphoria, with excitement. It would also mean 6 wins for your team. Would you be able to look at that as really significant signs of progress in year number 1 here, if you're able to achieve those things coming up here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think progress in certain ways, certainly. A win in this game, I think probably Coach Monk will tell you the same thing, regardless of the season that you had, ending on a high note, and just what it does for your football team going into the off season, going into being on the road recruiting is huge. I think back to 21, rough season, and you win that game, and you magically feel like you've had a decent year, and so I think you always want to win that game. It's certainly it's great momentum going into the off season. And it certainly makes you feel better about your season, whether or not you hit all your goals or you didn't. But I think certainly progress in some areas, and some things that we've got a ways to go on as well.
I know you've seen a lot of things. You've coached a lot of things, and we've seen a fake punt with a linebacker that was, not necessarily what it was supposed to be, but I assume the fake punt to Landon on Saturday was indeed called and executed the way it was asked.
Yeah, that wasn't a fake punt. That was a real fake punt, and executed really well by Landon, obviously. It's interesting. The last 2 times we played, we had the Diego infamous fake punt. Then they blocked the punt last year, and just goes to show you how important special teams play is in this game. You talk a lot about offense and defense, but so many times special teams is the difference in this game. I don't expect that to be any different on Saturday.
You've observed it obviously as an assistant coach, but as a head coach, the challenge in making sure that guys peak next Saturday, because obviously for the next 2 weeks, they're going to hear a lot from people on the yard and everything that, beat Army. They're going to hear that phrase probably 100,000 times between now and next Saturday. But how do you keep them where you need it, and obviously where you're hoping they're peaking next Saturday?
Yeah, I think just the message over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we just got to go be ourselves, be the best version of ourselves. It doesn't take a miracle to win this game. It doesn't take you playing outside of yourself. In fact, it's the opposite of that. It's doing your job as well as you possibly can, and not letting the moment get to you. Playing with emotion, but not letting emotion play with you. You've heard me say this a lot. It's a big time breathe, focus, explode game. Eyes have to be perfect. Have to be perfect with our assignments, and we don't have to get our guys up for this game. Like you do some games, you worry about making sure they're chomping at the bit and they're itching to play, and we know they're going to be there. And if anything, you kind of got to pull back and make sure that they're level-headed and they're in a good place mentally, going into the game.
Great, thank you.
Last question, Jonathan Learfield.
Any specific traditions that you look forward to at the game? Anything that has been happening, obviously, for a number of years during, kind of storied history of this game that you always look forward to?
During the course of the game?
Before, after, during the course of the game, anything like that.
Yeah, I think just going out there right before kickoff and just the energy in that stadium. I've been up in the press box the whole time I've been here, so being down in the field, I think, I'm going to take that in, and then, obviously, the moments after the game, after a win, what that feels like, singing a song and crowd and just the joy on our players' faces. So, just before the game and right after, I'm going to take that in.